Good evening, everyone. My name's Celeste Lannon. I'm part of 92NY's Recanati Kaplan Talks team. Thank you so much for being here for this very special 92NY Talks event in celebration of Bobbi Brown and her debut memoir, Still Bobbi. Bobbi is a renowned makeup artist and entrepreneur, best-selling author, sought-after speaker, beauty industry icon, and hotelier. She founded two successful cosmetic brands, Bobbi Brown Cosmetics, and more recently, the clean beauty brand Jones Road. She also envisioned and now operates the George Hotel in Montclair, New Jersey. Moderating tonight's conversation is award-winning journalist, philanthropist, producer, and #1 New York Times bestselling author, Katie Couric. Just a few bits of housekeeping before we begin. Please refrain from any flash photography or video recordings during the conversation. Bobbi and Katie will be taking your questions this evening. You received index cards on your way in. Please use these to write your questions, and our ushers will come through during the conversation to collect them. We have some very exciting programming coming up, including Shonda Rhimes, Michael J. Fox, Richard Gere, and Daniel Day-Lewis. To stay up to date on all of our programming, please visit our website, 92ny.org/talks, and follow us on Instagram at 92nd Street Y. We are doing a very special giveaway of some Jones Road products and merch, courtesy of Bobbi. To enter, please take a photo of yourself or of the event and post it on Instagram, tagging 92nd Street Y. Tomorrow, 2 winners will be picked, and we will ship the gift boxes directly to you. Every ticket this evening comes with a book, so if you haven't already, please pick up your copy at the Postman book table on your way out. We are very excited to have our guests here with us this evening, so please help me in giving a warm 92NY welcome to Bobbi Brown and Katie Couric.
Hi, everyone. I can't see anybody in this audience, but it's great to have you here tonight, and I'm very excited to be able to have a conversation with Bobbi, who has written a memoir called Still Bobbi, a Masterclass in Leading an Authentic Life, which is out now. First of all, congratulations. It's like giving birth, right?
I think it took more than 9 months, yes. It did.
Did you enjoy the process?
I did. It was very cathartic. And I do, I tell all my friends, I think everyone should write a memoir, even if it's just for yourself or your kids or your grandkids.
I agree.
It helped me understand a lot of things. But, I also, before we start, I just want to say how happy I am that you said yes when we asked you to do this, because Katie and I go way back.
We do. We go way back.
and every time I came to the Today Show, like, you were doing all this incredible news things, and I was doing makeup. I was teaching people, how to line your eyes or whatever. And one time you were interviewing me, I'll never forget this, and I was showing people how to put mascara on. And the girl opened her eyes, and I said to myself, oh shit, because it went on, her eyelid. And I said, oh, I'm not going to say anything. And Katie says, Bobbi, you smudged. And I said, that's good, because we all smudge at home, and this is how you fix it.
There you go.
There you go.
You were very good at improvising, and I was very good at not having an editor, right? And just blurting out whatever I thought.
Being yourself, and that's what we like about you.
Yeah, and I think we have some, I think, similarities in that way. I hope that we're unpretentious and kind of comfortable in our own skin and kind of are who we are. And I think
we're the same height. We're both grandmothers.
I think I'm a little taller than you are.
How tall are you?
Well, sadly, I used to lie, about my height and my weight, but I used to say I was 5'3", my glasses are so dirty, 5'3"3/4, and then I think I was really only 5'2", but I recently went to the doctor and I have shrunk an inch.
And I grew a quarter.
You did?
Well, first of all, I only started at 5 foot. I've been in 5 foot since 3rd grade, right? So and I think I just know how to stand up really good when I go to the doctor.
Well, I was very depressed. I made them measure me twice, but they said, yep, you're 5'1". Anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. But let's talk about your book, Bobbi. So obviously, that was funny because I was going to start by asking you what your memories were of being on the Today Show. And did you feel like that was a real breakthrough? Because this was in the early 90s, right, Bobbi?
God, you're asking me what year? I don't remember.
But I
It's
mean,
after
it was
I wrote
around
my
then.
first book. What year was it, Veronica? The first book? Okay, so I don't know. It was a long time ago. Yeah, I mean, it was a long time ago. It was after I wrote my first book, only because, you know, how I even got on the Today Show, I was at a book signing at Neiman Marcus, and, you know, I answered, someone raised their hand and said they had a question. I went over and I answered her, and she was the sweetest little old lady. And she said to me, "Are you Jewish?" And I said, "I am." "Why?" And she said, "Well, for a Jewish girl, you've done so much. I saw you on the Today Show. You were great." I had been on once. And she said, "Is there anything else you want to do?" I said, "I'd like to be a regular on the Today Show." She grabbed my arm and she says, "Honey, Jeff Zucker is my grandson." And that's how I got on the Today Show.
Is that how you became a regular contributor?
Yes. So Jeff came down. He called me Barbara. He always called me Barbara. And he says, "All right, Grandma Fran wants you on." He says, "How often do you want to be on?" I said, "Once a month." He said, "All right, you're on once a month." I came, wait, he came down the next month. He said, "Hi, Barbara, how's it going?" I said, "Good." He says, "Now what do you want?" And I didn't know, but I looked up and I saw, you know, I was watching the show and I saw everyone had titles. I said, "Can I have a title?" He said, "What kind of title do you want?" I said, "Can I be the beauty editor of the Today Show?" He's like, "All right, you're the beauty editor." He never came down the third month. I forgot to ask him for money. But I was on for 14 years. And by the way, like, there was no internet, there was no Instagram. That's how I think I helped Bobbi Brown get on the map, was the
Wow.
Today Show.
Well, you're welcome.
Well, thank you. 14 years.
Or maybe we should thank Jeff Zucker's Bubby, right?
Grandma
Who
Fran.
obviously had a lot of influence on him. So I wanted to know why you thought now was the time to write a memoir. Was there something that happened? I mean, for me, I wanted to write a memoir while I still remembered things. No, truthfully. And was that weighing on you, or why did you decide this was the moment to do it?
I did not want to write a memoir. It was not on my list of things I wanted to do. And when you know, an agent in France called me up and said, "You've got to meet this woman who's an agent. She wants to meet you, and she'd love to do a book with you." And I'm like, "Oh, great! I'd love to do another makeup book." So this woman, Rebecca, I saw her come in, came to my office, and we just had the best talk and the greatest time. She goes, I want you to do a memoir." I said, "I don't have anything to say." And I just said, "I don't want to write a memoir." She goes, No, you have a lot of things to say that could help people. I want to put it in words." And she said, "It doesn't have to be a memoir. It could be advice. It could be anything you want." So I kept telling everyone, "I'm writing a book. It's not a memoir. What is it?" "I don't know what it is. It's advice. Maybe there'll be a recipe." There's no recipes because I don't cook. But, and so I wrote a memoir.
Well, you know, I learned a lot about you. I felt like you know, we've spent time together and I know you, and I've always been so proud and impressed by you, Bobbi. But it was fun to get to know you from an early age. And the first part of the book, or part one, is called Know Where You're From. And it's where we're introduced to your hometown, Wilmette, Illinois, in the Chicago suburbs. Your dad, Papa Sam, a.k.a. Cadillac Sam, and Nana, your mother and father, beloved Aunt Alice, who had a really influential role in shaping who you are today. Tell me a little bit about your childhood and what it was like, because it was complicated, right?
Well, it's so funny. You know, people say complicated, and, you know, people say, I mean, I've heard all these different things. It was tragic, it was this. I don't remember it being a tragic, complicated childhood. I remember growing up in a loving family who adored me, who were, you know, fun, creative. All right, my mom had problems with mental illness, which, you know, we called it a nervous breakdown. We didn't know what that was. No one talked about mental illness or mental health. And unfortunately or fortunately, when it first happened, it was the same year that One Flew Cuckoo Nest came out. And I was like, okay, so that was my first introduction.
But you were in like seventh grade.
I was in seventh grade.
When
yeah.
she was first hospitalized.
Yes, yeah. But, you know, the positive thing about my mom being in the hospital, and I remember this so, you know, vividly, is my father and I used to drive to visit her every night, and we got to spend all this time together and talk, and really, you know, I felt like a grown-up, and he said, you know, I need you, you need to, you know, really help me with this, and I don't know, I felt very important and grown up.
And she was ultimately diagnosed with bipolar.
Right.
But so how did that manifest itself in sort of the way you were parented, particularly by her? Was it a pretty stable? Was it, you know, were there ups and downs in the family? How did it manifest itself?
In my young, you know, my young years, there was not ups and downs. She got better. She came home, and it was a long time before she had another episode. When she got older and things happened, I don't know if it was her hormones, my parents got divorced, she remarried someone, he passed away, and then it just became like nonstop, you know, bad issues. And, you know, she was put on medication, you know, whether it was lithium or whatever she was on, all those things really took a toll on her. And, you know, when I've been married 37 years, and my husband married into this, and she wasn't good. And I don't think he ever knew her good. So, you know, it was a lot of years where it wasn't the mom that I remember having. But I feel so lucky because I had her in the important years. I think it was harder on my younger siblings, but I was, you know, 7th grade, 8th grade, I was busy with my friends. And so I don't feel pain about my mom's illness.
And in fact, I think you write about what it taught you, how you developed an emotional resilience that you say, or you write, has carried me through my life during that time. So how did her illness kind of help create this resilience for you?
You know, I'm not sure, but when I was writing the book and I was talking about it, and, you know, people, whether it was, you know, my editor or my, you know, co-writer, my ghostwriter, would say things to me like, oh my God. And I'm like, did I block this out? Like, is that how I dealt with it? I blocked it out, and I had to really kind of think about it. I didn't. I just moved on. So why and how, I don't know. Maybe it goes way back from my people. You know, Papa Sam came from Russia. He had nothing, and he, you know, somehow figured out how to maneuver things to become Cadillac Sam. And, you know, I don't know. You know, I watched my dad, who was a lawyer, but, you know, very entrepreneurial, and nothing came easy to anyone, but everyone just went on with it.
I think when you don't know any differently, right, you just, you deal with the circumstances you're in. And I know that your mom was quite glamorous.
Very.
And meanwhile, you had an Aunt Alice who was very practical. You describe her that way. And that dichotomy really helped sow the seeds of what you would later become. Tell us about the influence of both of these women in your life and who you'd become.
Sure, they could not be more different. I mean, my mother was 6 years younger than my Aunt Alice, and she, I mean, really was an absolute gorgeous woman that, you know, made sure she was as skinny as possible, wore the highest heels she could, wore the most beautiful makeup, and everything mattered to her, you know, looks and you know, popularity and all those things. We went on every diet together. And my Aunt Alice was, or is, she's 94 years old. My Aunt Alice was the opposite. Short hair, never wore heels, under 5 foot tall, smart as a whip, read every article out there, raised 3 kids, had this incredible love affair with Uncle Albert. And just, you know, we talked about life and things. And it was my comfort zone to go there, you know, and then I'd go home and have to kind of fluff myself up, you know, to be with my mom sometimes. But I'm a little bit of both, you know, so I'm a little bit of both.
When did you, so you started playing with makeup like most girls, and Bobbi and I are the same age. I think I might be
6 months older than me, maybe.
I'm 6 months older.
I don't know. I was.
Well, at least it's only 6
so,
months.
So you don't tell anyone how tall you are? Do you talk about your age?
Yes, I do.
How old are you?
I'm 68.
Okay, me too.
When's your birthday?
April.
April. Okay, my birthday's January, so
Right,
I'm 3 months older.
3 months, no, because I went to your 60th birthday party with
That's
Dick,
right.
with Dick Ebersol and my husband.
Well, thank you for coming. That was fun, by the way.
Thank you for inviting me.
But I'm thinking about Bobbi in in middle school or junior high, which we called it growing up in Virginia. And I'm thinking about you like discovering makeup for the first time and really being enthralled by it. And then I was thinking, as you were talking, you must have had like the same makeup I had, like Bonnie Bell,
Bonnie
Lip
Bell.
Smackers, and
Yardley.
Yardley, Glimmerick. Do you remember Glimmerick?
No.
That was Yardley too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I blue mascara. I loved blue mascara.
I don't think I had that. But did you have like Love's Lemon,
Sure.
the cologne?
And
did you have
Baby
Gina
Soft.
Tay?
Gina Tay, of course.
And did you use Noxzema?
I did.
Me too.
I did. Did you sleep? Wait, did you sleep with rollers in, like orange juice cans in your hair?
Yeah, orange juice cans like this because my hair's kind of curly,
Yeah.
even though it doesn't look that curly. But anyway, so tell me about kind of when you became infatuated and sort of interested in makeup.
Well, you know, I used to watch my mom put her makeup on to go on date night with my dad, and she was just so glamorous and so beautiful and, you know, wore the tightest little, she had a teeny little waist, and she would put black liner on and individual lashes, and I just remember this Ultima bronzer, this fat bronzing stick she'd put on her cheeks, she'd blend it in, and oh my God, she looked so great. And I used to play with her old makeup, but I never wanted people to know I was wearing makeup. So I always kind of blended it in, and, you know, I remember we would go to Florida for spring break, and anyone that lived in Chicago, it was a big competition who would get more tan.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, you had to go back the tannest, and so, you know, besides baby oil and
So
iodine.
bad. So
terrible.
bad.
Baby oil and iodine.
I did that too.
Right, right? I
did
mean,
that
it's
too.
crazy.
I didn't do the record album covered in aluminum foil.
I didn't do that. You know what I did? My mother's refrigerator case. We did the whole body. We took the old refrigerator box and we just put tinfoil in it and we laid in it with baby oil and iodine.
So healthy.
Yeah, I mean, while we were smoking cigarettes, probably, but you know, no one told us that it wasn't good. But so I used to use my mom's makeup to try to look really tan, and it made me, when I looked in the mirror, I thought I looked pretty. So that was just how I started.
And then I know you had an aha moment. I was trying to figure out what year, how old we were when Love Story came out.
Right.
But when you saw Ally McGraw in Love Story, it not only gave you an aha moment, but it also gave you some comfort in who you were and what you look like, right?
Right. I'm sure I know you were a cheerleader, right?
At what?
Were you a cheerleader?
What do you think?
Of course, yes. Yes, I did not. I was not. Were you on the student council? Yes, I was not. I you know, so I just, you know, I didn't want to peak too soon, okay? I'm still waiting. You know, so I was in the popular group. I had all these friends, but they were taller and blonder and smarter, and they did cartwheels, and, you know, and I just didn't. So, you know, I never felt that I was pretty enough. And I remember I saw this book in a bookstore, and I asked my dad to get it for me. It was Cheryl Tiegs was on the cover, and it was like all her health and wellness like hacks or whatever. My dad got it for me. I read the book cover to cover. I tried every single thing. I friggin' looked the same. And when I finished the book, so nothing worked. So I didn't feel that I was that attractive. I look back now and I was really cute, but you know, I didn't feel it. And then when I went to the movies and saw Ally McGraw on the screen, and she was the first brunette with like big eyebrows, hair parted in the middle, freckles on her nose, and I'm like, oh, I could be cute too. I don't have to look like Cheryl Tiegs.
That's so funny, and it's so crazy how popular culture can have such an influence, especially I think when you're younger. And I think one of the themes of this book is, you know, I think you dealing with your insecurity and feeling less than, but also this quote from one of your favorite authors, Liz Murray, which is, "So what, now what?" Tell me about that quote and why it resonated with you and you continue to kind of use it as your mantra.
Well, in the old company, I had it painted on the wall because everybody would come in and tell me why something couldn't happen or what happened, you know, that couldn't happen. And I would just sit there listening, and I'm like, okay, so what are you going to do about it? You know, I mean, I always think there's a solution and an answer to things, and I know that's being an entrepreneur. But I still think, so what, now what? Like, I could, you know, list 10 million things that have happened. Then I'm like, okay, now what are we going to do about it?
You're so unflappable.
I don't think that's true. What do you mean I'm unflappable?
I just feel like you are.
Steven, where's my husband? Where are my
I
kids?
feel like you have a lot of equanimity. Is that the word?
I don't know what that means. What
Well,
does
it just means like.
See, that's how secure I am that I can ask you on stage what the hell that means.
I think it just means you're calm and kind of nothing rattles you.
Again, where's my husband?
But I do think
Yeah.
is that not true? Or are you being
You know, no, I get rattled, and honestly, I go to Steven and I tell him, and he's like, So he's like, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Okay, it's fine. You know, so I think I've been conditioned to be like that. Seriously. I mean, I think it's because who I married.
All right, go
Yeah.
Stephen.
Yeah.
That's nice. Well, I'm also really interested in your journey from growing up in Wilmette and then going to college. And I read Frank Bruni's book, and I highly recommend it if you have any people in your life very nervous about getting into college. Because Frank, who I love, by the way, I love Frank Bruni, he wrote a book called Where You Go Isn't Who You'll Be. And it's basically profiling so many interesting people. Like, I think Howard Schultz is in it, Bobbi's in it, about kind of their paths.
Are you sure I'm in it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Anyway, Frank will be so happy to hear you say that. But anyway, he talked about kind of your path, but I want you to tell everybody sort of what happened to you. And you start at the University of Arizona in Tucson.
First, I went to University of Wisconsin. Oshkosh. I went for 6 months, followed a boyfriend. Then we transferred to University of Arizona. And then I came home and told my mom I wanted to drop out of school because it was really boring. Oh, it was terribly boring. And she said, you can't. You have to go to school. But, Mom, I don't know what I want to do with my life. I don't know where I want to go to school. She said the craziest thing. She said, if today's your birthday, you could do anything you want. What would you want to do? And I don't know why. It popped in my head. I want to go to Marshall Fields and play with makeup. She said, that's it. Be a makeup artist. I said, I don't want to go to beauty school. She said, I'm sure there's a college somewhere. And a friend of my dad's told me about this little communications school in Boston called Emerson. And so I flew up to Emerson, and they would let me design my own major. You know, I said, do you have makeup here? They said, no, but if you want to, you could study makeup. I think they needed students at the time. But what really made me go to Emerson was they had a Magic Pan cafe, and I had never seen an outdoor restaurant before. And so it was very European.
I remember Magic
Remember
Pan?
Magic Pan
Yeah,
Cafe?
yeah.
Yeah, so I went to Boston to see the Magic Pan.
That's a good reason to choose a school, Bobbi. But you did get to devise your own curriculum.
Right.
And so tell us what that entailed. It was sort of theatrical makeup, right?
Well, it's called an interdisciplinary major. I still don't know what that means, and I've gotten like an honorary degree from them too, and I still don't know what it means. But what it meant was that with my advisor, I had to take all the requirements, but then I had to take things for this major to learn everything I could about makeup. So I ended up just doing makeup for all the plays, for the film department. I took a speech course. I did anything I could. They had one teacher that taught one class in makeup. So I had to learn. And, one year my advisor came to me and says, I have an opportunity for you. You can go to New York and you could work at the Metropolitan Opera House, an internship. I said, no. I didn't want to like waste my summer, so I didn't do that. No, but who knows? I could have not been in the fashion business.
That's true.
So, I don't regret not going. But
that would have been a cool opportunity.
It would have been a cool opportunity, but, it didn't interest me. I like hip-hop, not opera.
So you said no to that, but you graduate from Emerson.
Yes.
And you end up going to New York City.
Well, no, that's after a year because I first was a waitress because
Oh,
I
that's
needed money to pay my rent.
Yes.
So, and I was a terrible waitress, terrible, really bad. But I did it for a year.
I was a waitress too.
Were
We
you-
have so many parallels.
Were you
in our-
good or bad?
Was I a good waitress? Not particularly. I was okay. I enjoyed it because I kind of like the intensity and the hustle and bustle. I remember somebody left me 25 cents on a table, on the table, and it was like 12 or 14 people. So I followed them out into the
Ooh.
parking lot,
Uh-oh.
and I threw the quarter in their car, and I said, I don't need your quarter, mister.
And you wouldn't do that today, though.
Yeah, I would.
You would do that today?
Yeah, yeah.
We live in a different kind of world right now.
Well, maybe.
Aren't
It
you-
depends on
aren't
the
you in
restaurant.
news?
Depends
Aren't you in the news?
on where we are. Yeah. But anyway, so you worked as a waitress.
Yes, and then I moved to New York, and all I really wanted to do was be a makeup artist. I actually one day went to get waitressing jobs, and everybody said no. So I went home, I said, well, that's not gonna work. And I opened up the Yellow Pages and looked up modeling agencies, models, makeup, anything. I got myself to the Makeup Artist Union. Who knew there was a makeup artist union? I went there and I said, hi, I'm here to sign up. And the guy looked at me and said, let me tell you how it works. Sit down. And he basically said, if you're not born into the union, it'll take you a good 7 to 10 years of apprenticing to get in the union. So I said, well, that's not going to work. But he did say, I'll call you for gigs. And so I got to assist the makeup artist on Saturday Night Live. I got to do the local news. And I'll never forget doing the local news. I forget the guy's name. He had a big mustache. I did his makeup, and he was really not nice at all. And he had a booger in his nose.
Okay.
And I said to myself, do I tell him? I told him because I cared more about doing a good job than letting him go on. Yeah.
I'm sure he appreciated that, Bobbi. So you're doing all these different gigs in New York City, and I know that Bruce Weber, a job that you had with him, he saw something in you, didn't he? About the way you worked and kind of the lighter touch you had with makeup. Tell us about that.
I mean, it definitely wasn't like the first couple years in New York. It took a few years of getting a little bit known and, being hired for magazines. But I got the opportunity to work with Bruce because his regular makeup artist, a woman named Bonnie Maller, got a different or a better job. So I was a wreck. I mean, I was just a nervous wreck. I think I tried on like 300 pairs of jeans to see which ones would be the cool jeans. But I'm sure Bruce didn't notice. But seriously, I got to the studio, I knocked on the door, and Bruce opened the door with his bandana. And I'll never forget, I was like, and he said, Bobbi, I've been waiting a long time to work with you. Please come in. You're so great. And that taught me, he understood that I was a nervous wreck. He didn't have to be that nice, but he was really nice, and I've carried that on, years and years with myself. But I worked with him. I did makeup on the model. It was a girl named Talisa, a beautiful girl. And he said, when we were all done, he said, all right, Bobbi, take it off. It's too much. And it was really light-handed, but he said, take it off. And then he went and he pinched her cheek. He said, that's what I want her to look like. And, and he said, Talisa, bite your lips. And then
Like Scarlett O'Hara.
kind of.
Yeah.
But then I saw what he was looking for, and I went back and I did her makeup again, and he said, that's it. So I understood what not natural makeup doesn't mean it's hardly there or it's nude. It just means it's the actual colors you have in the skin. So that kind of started my makeup journey.
And really influenced sort of your whole brand, not only with Bobbi Brown, but now with Jones Road. But before we get to that and kind of creating your own line, you're really hustling in New York. And then you meet your husband, Stephen, and you dedicate the book to Stephen. And after that first meeting, you called your dad the next morning and said that you had met the man you're going to marry. So even though he's here and we'll get embarrassed, tell us about Stephen, Bobbi.
Well, first of all, he's my partner in everything. He's always there for me. And, I'm always there for him. I'm his partner. I don't know if he cares as much about my opinion as I need his opinion, but we are always there for each other. We are incredibly lucky people because we've had these 3 kids together. We now have 2 grandkids. I follow him anywhere. He goes to more places than I would choose to go to, but I go because it makes him happy. And, he's my partner in work and my partner in life. I honestly say this 100%. There's not a chance that I would be Bobbi Brown without him. I wouldn't have the guts and I wouldn't have the wherewithal.
That's such a nice thing to say. Here's to Stephen. Where is he anyway? Where are you, Stephen?
I don't know. I saved the front row for my family, but clearly they...
Oh, he's back there. Anyway, you know, so Stephen goes to law school, right, Bobbi? And you feel a lot of pressure to work and to make a bit more money.
Yeah, the real estate market crashed, and he came to me and he said, oh, I better get a job. And I looked at him, and I had this vision of him standing on, you know, at the 66 bus with a briefcase. I'm like, that's not my husband. I said, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard you say. And then he went to law school.
So you decided to help out, obviously, while he's in law school, and you're on a shoot for Self magazine, and you meet this other Stephen, who is an on-site chemist at Kiehl's, and he makes his own lipsticks, right? So tell us about that meeting and how that basically created this new side hustle for yourself.
Well, when I was doing the shoot for Self magazine, the story was like makeup shopping at alternative places in New York. I was actually pregnant with Dylan, who's now 35. Isn't that insane? And he had these lipsticks, and I'm like, ooh, what are these? They're really nice. He said, oh, I make them out of my house. He was a chemist from Pennsylvania. And I said, I've always wanted to make a lipstick. I said, because I always have to fix lipsticks to make them look, you know, this brownish nude color. He said, oh, I can make them for you. I said, really? He says, yeah, tell me what you want. And so we started working on this lipstick. We got the formula down. And then I sent him the things. We got the color down. And I said to myself, oh, my God, I love this. I bet I could sell it. And then I realized, well, not everyone is going to like that color lipstick. Some people like, you know, pink or red. And people have different color lips. Like, it just dawned on me. I'm like, this is not going to look the same. So I thought about 10 different colors. He made them. Our business deal, and if there's business people in the audience, our business deal was he would give me the lipsticks. We'd sell them for $15. He would get $7.50, and I would get $7.50. Oh, it's pretty good, right? That's some cash for groceries. So that's how we started.
And you had this set of 10 different shades, right?
That we would put in a manila envelope. Stephen would mail them. And, you know, we had the ingredients in a card. Now I know that's called, like, you know, environmentally friendly, because we didn't have boxes.
And meanwhile, so this business grows and grows, right? These lipsticks become super popular.
They become popular. You know, also a friend of mine who was a beauty editor at Glamour magazine said, can I write about them? Why would you want to write about, like, why? Well, now I know it's called PR. And they kind of took off. And then we had to hire my sister-in-law, Bryna, to do the books. And so she came and did the books, and Stephen did the mailing and the accounting, and all of a sudden we had this little business.
And it was Bobbi Brown Essentials.
No, it wasn't. It was just called Bobbi Brown. There wasn't Essentials.
So when did it become? There's a bug flying around here. When did it become Essentials?
Well, so we had this little side hustle. We didn't call it that back then, but it was a side hustle. And then one day we went to a party in the city at someone's house. Her name was Allison. And I said, thank you for inviting me. And she says, oh, thank you for coming. I'm a big fan. I'm like, oh, you know who I am? She said, yeah, I've seen your work in magazines. And I said, what do you do? She said, well, I'm a cosmetics buyer at Bergdorf Goodman. I said, oh, let me tell you about this thing I have.
Talk about serendipity, right?
I mean, Jeff's grandma and Bergdorf.
Yeah. Yeah, so she said, I'd like to sell them.
Yeah, I'd like to sell them. So we sold, you know, so we had this deal, which, you know, this is when Stephen came in, because I don't know how to make those deals. I know how to open the door. I just don't know how to close the door.
So what was the deal was with Bergdorf?
Right, but you can't start a business $750 and $750. It doesn't work. So we had to find someone to make the lipsticks and have, you know, start all over again, basically.
And what happened to the Kiehl's guy?
He went on to do other things, you know, and I had to start all over again. You know, he couldn't do what I needed to be done, and he knows, and he knew that. And so I was in an elevator one day, and I said hi, and the girl said hi, and I don't even know how I asked her, "What do you do?" She said, "Oh, I work for a cosmetics manufacturer." I said, "Do you have a card?" And they started making my first
You're like
lipsticks.
Walter Mitty or something, you know? Yeah. So you met her.
I met her, I got her card, and she helped me reproduce the lipsticks. And so when we sold into Bergdorf Goodman, February of '91, it was, 10 lipsticks sitting on a table. We thought we'd sell 100 the first day, and we sold the first month, and we sold 100 the first day.
Wow. And meanwhile, you're getting proposals out the wazoo from all different corporations to sell.
Well, not that week.
Well,
That was
no, but later
years,
on,
heck yeah.
after Bobbi Brown Essentials
Yeah.
kind of really
Right.
gets off the ground.
Right. I mean, really, we sold the company after 4.5 years, which I
Okay.
know is not a long time.
No, and there were a lot of offers, though, right? A lot of interest.
We had a bunch of different interests. Yeah.
So then Estee Lauder comes around. And what made you finally say yes to Estee Lauder?
Well, we didn't say yes to Estee Lauder. We said yes to Leonard Lauder.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Leonard Lauder, right? I mean,
Everyone's like, oh,
yeah. I mean,
I love
yeah.
Leonard Lauder, too.
Right? I mean, Leonard Lauder, you just always said yes to Leonard Lauder. And he always said yes to me.
And so what were those years like? I mean, I know it was a mixed bag ultimately, but when you first came, you said it was life-changing, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about it. It sounds like an episode of That Girl, you know?
Oh, it was I was between Melanie Griffith and, in Working Girl and Marlo Thomas and That Girl. Like and a little, Mary Tyler Moore. But it was crazy. It was exciting. It was incredible. And, we had an office. I think our first office was on Park Avenue. We eventually moved into the GM building. And in the beginning, it was magic. I had all the support. I had anything, that I needed to grow this company. And, by the time when they bought us, we were the #1 line in Bergdorf and in Neiman Marcus.
And you call those the Wonder Years.
They were the Wonder Years. I mean, every event that Leonard went to, Stephen and I got invited to, and we got to meet all these incredible people, and we traveled, the globe, and they took really good care of us. And Leonard just let me be myself. Like, I never felt that my crazy ideas were juvenile. I just, he thought I was really smart.
But there was a moment, I guess, after a while, right, Bobbi?
I stayed 22 years.
22 years.
Yeah.
But yes, so you're happy until you're not.
Right.
And what made you get restless and feel like maybe a bit constrained by being in this corporate world?
Well, it definitely took a long time, and, things change, and, are we in trouble?
No. These are audience questions.
Okay. Things changed and things got tougher, and the business and the corporation grew, and there was new people that were coming in, and then little by little, things started changing at Bobbi Brown, and, I always went to work thinking I could fix things. If they would just listen to me, if I could just do this, I knew exactly what needed to get done. And, towards the end, no, it just didn't work. So it was pretty miserable at the end.
Was that hard for you, especially with your close relationship with Leonard?
Well, I don't think Leonard was that involved at the end. He was, other powers took over.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have Leonard to go to talk about things. He didn't just say yes to me. We talked things through. He really was, a business partner. But when he wasn't around and there was other important, people running the company.
Those who shall not be named.
Those don't need to be named. But it changed. And, it was a really different kind of company. And it was probably, I probably overstayed my welcome by a couple years, but I kept thinking I was going to fix it.
Looking back, do you regret selling your company to Estee Lauder?
Not a nanosecond, nor do I regret the last 2 miserable years. I became a much better person because of what I went through.
So you, excuse me, so you leave in 2016 4 years remaining on your non-compete. And
My 25-year non-compete, yes.
Yes, yeah, and so meaning you couldn't work in the beauty industry till 2020. Did you know, Bobbi, during that period, I'm gonna do it all over again?
Absolutely not.
So what motivated you to say, I'm gonna start this new line, and I'm super excited to do it, and I'm not done yet?
Well, when I left the company, I really thought I was done. I said, I'm done. You know, that was a journey. That was, okay, that door's closed. Now what? And, you know, I took 2 days really kind of, you know, moping and not working. And then I just said, this stinks. And I started calling people and going out. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I mean, you know, I had my calendar was so overbooked from things that all of a sudden I didn't have anything on it. So I had to fill the calendar, and I would go talk to people. And, you know, one of the first people I talked to gave me an opportunity to open a Just Bobbi shop at 4 Lord & Taylor's, so I got that project. You know, my husband said to me, I need your help on this project. He had bought a building and wants to turn it into a hotel. Okay, sure. I never even said once in my life I want to have a hotel, but sure. Why not? So we did that, and it was fun. And then I opened a wellness brand, which was incredibly great experience, and it didn't work. You know, it's good to have something that doesn't work, right?
Yeah,
'Cause
well,
that's
what
how
did you learn from that?
I learned that you know, first of all, starting one line in Bergdorf and another line in Walmart, 2 different things. And, you know, it's a different beast, and not everything that I touch turns to gold. And that was, you know, okay.
That was humbling, I
It
guess.
was totally humbling.
But you decided to go back to your first love, makeup, and you're 62 years old, and you say, I'm going to start this new company called Jones Road, which is named after a street near your house in Sag Harbor?
No, it's actually a street. Steve and I don't agree on this. There's a street in East Hampton, Jones Road, but we don't usually go that way. So I think it was some past West Hampton. There's a street called Jones Road. And I was complaining to Steven that we couldn't find a name of this new company, and I wanted to launch the day my non-compete was up. I didn't care that it was in the middle of the pandemic. I didn't care that it was a week before the presidential election. I didn't care. I just wanted to launch it that day. I didn't care. So he said, if we don't have a name by Monday, and this was like either Thursday or Friday morning, we're not going to be able to do it. And I looked down at the map, because when we drive, Stephen likes me to look at Waze and Google Maps, because God forbid we're 5 minutes late, even if we have nowhere to go. Okay. So I looked down and I saw Jones Road, and I said, Jones Road Beauty. And immediately in my head, it sounded like a bespoke British brand that they asked me to make modern again. And Stephen said, I like it. And we called our lawyer, and it was available. And it became Jones Road.
So what was your North Star when you created this new line, and how did your goals and your mission change from when you started out with Bobbi Brown? I mean, obviously you're in a very different situation and position, but in terms of the product itself.
Well, it's so funny because I felt really youthful and young and energized, because when I first started Bobbi Brown with the lipsticks, and, you know, and starting the early company where there were not a lot of layers, it was just kind of me being excited and doing things, I felt that again. Like, I felt like I was in my 30s. And, you know, I hired one person to help me with this, and we started just kind of playing with things, and we had to find all new labs, because I didn't want to hire anyone from the old company. I didn't want to use any of the labs. And, you know, I wanted to see if it was possible to create a clean line. And I didn't know. So we found, you know, we didn't open up the yellow pages this time, but we Googled. But it's kind of the same thing. And we found these labs and started making these products. And this one product came in, and I looked at it, and it wasn't what I asked for. And I was kind of annoyed, but then I stuck my finger in it, and I went like this, because that's what makeup artists do. And then I put it on my face. And I'm like, oh my God, look at me. This is a friggin' miracle. I didn't say friggin', but I said, this is a miracle. And everyone at the office was like, oh my God. And it became Miracle Balm. And I ended up putting it in little containers, and I gave it to my friends. Because you remember during the pandemic when you finally realize you're doing Zooms again?
Yeah.
And you realize you look terrible, but you know, you haven't colored your hair, cut your hair, and just this little stuff on the face made everybody look so much better. They kept coming back and asking for more. Bobbi, I ran out of that little teeny thing. Can I have more? So I knew I had a winner.
And so your philosophy, I mean, it's interesting, Bobbi, because I know you like Instagram. We're both a little addicted maybe. And, you know, you see all these makeup tutorials, especially, I think, in recent years, the contouring, the really the Kardashian kind of look. And you have always rejected that and felt that, well, I guess my question is, what is your beauty philosophy?
Well, you know, I watch those things, and I'm really fascinated by the talent a lot of these, you know, content creators have with makeup. I'm not that talented. I'm not. Like, I'm not that kind of a makeup artist painter, but I'm really talented what I do, and I have figured out, you know, how to teach women how to just look better, but still look like yourself and not change. And, you know, I didn't invent makeup. I just like reinventing it, and I like to demystify it because everyone is like they think it's so complicated, and it's so not complicated.
And I love that your models are all ages. As somebody who's 68, I really appreciate that you show your products on someone who's 22 and someone who's 72. And I mean,
Yeah.
a beautiful 72.
Right. I mean, you know, look, I know I'm 68, but I don't feel age. I don't see age. I don't think about it, you know, except when we talk about something popular culture and the kids in my office have no idea. No idea who this person is. That's
My
what I feel
assistant
like.
didn't know who the Partridge Family was. I was crushed. I was like, you don't know David Cassidy?
I mean, some of the girls in my office didn't know who Diane von Furstenberg was, or Paul Smith. And I'm just like, if you don't know who Paul McCartney is, you're walking out of the door right now.
So I know that I was thinking when you were talking about the Today Show being a great sort of PR tool for you before social media, you adapted to social media really well. And I think you did it by being yourself. And these videos you did really went viral. Tell me about how you became a TikTok star.
I know, right? It was like Bobbi Brown 62 TikTok star, Bobbi Brown 64 TikTok star. I guess I'm not a TikTok star anymore because I don't say Bobbi Brown 68 TikTok star. But, you know, in the beginning, I didn't go on TikTok. I just thought it was for, you know, stupid dance tricks or whatever. And, you know, our son, Cody, who is now the CEO, who was the head of who was the head of marketing then, said, you know, we had a call with Gary Vaynerchuk, and he said, you got to stop what you're doing. You just got to do TikTok. Go hire an agency. Go hire people. Just get a team. We got off the phone, and Cody looked at me. He says, all right, Mom, go. And I just looked in the phone, you know, in good light with my head up because you know, that's part of it now. And I said, I'm new to TikTok. I'm Bobbi. What do you want? You know, what do you want to know? And people went crazy. I didn't know there were people my age on TikTok.
Yeah.
Like, there are a ton. And so, you know, we started doing TikTok. And we had a couple major viral moments. And it really quadrupled our business for a while.
Is it fun working with your son, Cody, who is now the CEO? It's the CEO
He
of
is the
Jones Road.
CEO,
He
yes.
started out in marketing.
Well, he was the head of growth, then he was marketing, and then he was the CMO, and now he's the CEO. So it is really interesting. You know, is it fun? I don't think it's fun. You know, it's more fun when I go to his house and play with his kids. He's very serious at work. He's really smart. He's not here. He's had enough of his mom. And, you know, it's just super interesting for me to sit there and listen to my son be the smartest guy in the room.
But that must make you really proud.
It makes me really proud. It does. And his wife is the head of brand. So it is.
I met them both when I came.
Right.
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah. Yeah. Came to your place. Let me do some audience questions so we can get to some of these. Somebody asked, did you ever regret signing the 25-year non-compete?
I don't need to regret. I mean, maybe I should have signed a 20-year, but no.
I know Stephen said it might be a problem.
Well,
at the time,
Stephen
right?
said you might not like this, but when he told me we had a 25-year non-compete, like I had to count on my fingers because I'm not good at math. But I'm like, I'm not going to want to work when I'm in my 60s. So it didn't really matter.
This is, someone asked, and this is a nice question. Your dad, Joe, is a children's book author. Did he have any advice for you ahead of writing your memoir?
Just no. You know, he corrected me a few things. Like he read the chapter about him, and he corrected me on a few things. As did Aunt Alice, and as did my kids. So, yeah, no. And by the way, speaking of Aunt Alice, if you know anyone in Chicago, I couldn't wait for this book talk. But my Aunt Alice is interviewing me on stage at her retirement community. She's 94.
Oh, that's so nice.
Her boyfriend is 95, and he's bringing 4 of his daughters.
Aw,
Yeah,
that's
so I'm
so
very excited,
sweet.
yeah.
That's so nice. This kind of goes along the same lines as the earlier question, but how do you feel having let go of something with your name, and now someone else is making the decisions and the profits with no involvement from you? Because they still sell Bobbi Brown.
They still sell Bobbi Brown. And, in the beginning it was really hard, I'm not going to lie. I didn't want to go near a Bobbi Brown counter. I still haven't used any of the products since I left the brand. It was just an emotional thing for me. It took me a while to get rid of any kind of emotion, anger, sadness, loss, all of that stuff. I worked through things, with the way I work through things. And, nothing like a successful new act to kind of help you get over it faster.
Yeah. How does how does the brand do, Bobbi Brown?
I don't know.
Okay. This is also an interesting question. The beauty industry is in a very odd place at the moment. Big companies like Coty, and I can't read the next. Can you read that?
Coty.
It's like Z-I. Anyway,
Anyways,
it's all right. Except big companies like Coty are struggling, while indie brands and influencer
ELC
brands. What's it called?
ELC.
Okay.
Estee Lauder company.
Oh, okay. While indie brands, what is wrong with me? And influencer brands are thriving. What are they doing right versus wrong? And this person said, I love the Miracle Bombs.
Well, it's a new world, Goldie. That's all I have to say. And I think that I think every company out there has to, shift and adjust and adapt and just, be a little more nimble to how things in the world are happening.
Bobbi, I brought my mom to this event. She traveled all the way from Canada.
Aww.
Thank you for coming to our country, Canada. That was very brave of you. She loves you and Katie. Thank you. Thank you, Canadian mom. What is the single most important piece of advice you received that contributed to your success? And who was it from? Thank you, Nicole.
Well, I got a lot of advice. My parents pretty much taught me to be myself. And that was pretty good advice. And Leonard Lauder gave me the best. Well, I'm going to tell you, my dad and Leonard Lauder. Leonard Lauder said to me once, never, ever ask for permission, just beg for forgiveness. So he gave me that permission. And my dad, when I called my dad when I was trying to make it in New York, and I said, Dad, I keep going over on my checking account. I can't balance. I don't know how to, how to do this. And I'm just always going over. And he said, well, stop worrying how you're going to budget yourself. Just figure out how you're going to make more money. I said, okay.
That was good advice, and you took it to heart. I'm going to do a quick lightning round with completely shallow, superficial questions.
Vodka.
What's the biggest mistake people make when it comes to makeup, especially if you're over 50?
Not using enough moisturizer.
Can anyone wear red lipstick?
Absolutely not.
I know. I can't.
I can't either.
I look so weird.
I just, you know what? You're either a red lipstick person or you're not. So I just do red nails.
Does it have to do with your skin tone?
No, it has to do with what you like.
What you?
What you like. I mean, red lipstick is a little polarizing.
Yeah.
You
It
know,
looks
and
good
some
on
people
Taylor
look-
Swift.
It does. And a lot of, French women look great in it. And I don't know, is anyone wearing red lipstick in here? One,
Somebody.
yeah, one person. Well, it's dark in here, but I'm sure you look fantastic.
Okay. Is there really anything out there that will get rid of crepey skin asking for a friend?
So I grew up with a mom that bought every wrinkle remover cream on the market, and nothing ever worked. Crepey skin is just dry, dehydrated skin.
But it also is skin that has separated from your muscle when you get older.
Well, guess what? The best way to get rid of it is to build more muscle.
Yeah.
That is really the only way. And wear moisturizer, make sure you're drinking enough water, and just really, everyone in this room, if you don't have a weight routine, there's nothing better for your beauty and health than weights.
I have a weightlifting class tomorrow, in fact. I'm trying. But then when I do it, I can't walk for 3 days.
Well, there's a different way to do it, Katie, then.
Well, you need to come and help me.
Well, when I replace your Oreos with the Nori protein drink, we'll talk.
I had Oreos backstage
For dinner.
dinner. But anyway, just once in a while.
We ordered a protein.
What are your thoughts on Botox and facelifts?
Well, let's see. I've said I'm never going to have a facelift. I don't think I'm ever going to have a facelift. Botox for me is not something I choose to do. I tried it when I was in my 40s, and I had 2 terrible, terrible things. I did not tell my husband about it, but he's heard me admit it, and, it's not for me. But if it's for you and you like it, that's fine.
Yeah. In closing, Bobbi, you've accomplished so much, and I know there's a lot more you want to do, but what do you think is next for you? Are you happy building this new, very successful, very well-loved brand and kind of making this, I don't want to say final act because I sound, but are you looking to do anything more after this, you think?
I am open to anything.
Really?
I have no thoughts or plans. First of all, I love what I'm doing at Jones Road. I mean, it's my favorite place to be is in my office with all the kids that work for me and, talk about cool things that are doing. It's my happiness, between that and Lily and Sean, my grandkids, it's just the best.
And you really love to work. I mean, I'm the same way. I love to work because work gives me purpose.
And it infuses energy, and I meet new people, and I get to, use my creativity and my curiosity. I do. I love it. I love new experiences. I don't know what else is ahead in the future. I would like to figure out a way to have more free time, but not until this book is on the New York Times bestsellers list. Okay, everybody, I need your help.
And by the way, Celeste is going to come out. We're going to turn the house lights on, and everyone's going to hold their book so we can get a picture of everybody in the audience. Bobbi, thank you so much.
Katie,
this was so much fun.
Hold it like this?
Yep. Okay. Hold on. Here, you want it? Wait, how do we? Okay. See, I have to squinch down to be Bobbi's height.